Hey everybody, welcome into another edition of the Windy City Breakdown. Tony Andracki here, joined by Andy Martínez and Kyle Millinowisch. And guys, it's extension season. Have you guys signed any extensions since we last got together for a podcast here?
No, that'd be nice. That'd be
It would
pretty
be nice.
nice.
Literally the opposite. Can't find a job.
That is actually quite the opposite of signing a long-term extension. It's not just the Cubs. The Mariners have locked up infield prospect Colt Emerson. The Brewers locked up infield prospect Cooper Pratt. Both guys are still young in their career. Pratt has not made his big league debut yet. I forget if Emerson has or not, but either way, they're two guys with very little experience in the MLB who, it's not like a PCA thing where he's only a few years away and he's kind of an established star. It's very much like what um, we've seen from a few of the organizations, but I feel like it's been a while. It was like Jonathan Singleton, I feel like, of the Astros when they did this, and some other. I can't think of another. The
Churio
White
was
Sox.
like the last. The Churio is probably like Churio and then the White Sox with Jimenez and Luis Robert Jr.
Yeah. So it feels like it's been a bit since teams have done this. But just, in a serious note on that, any reaction from you guys as you see those moves around the league? It was like 95 million or something for Emerson, which I thought was kind of crazy.
I mean, I think a lot of it is just like players wanting to have that security with the impending unknown of
Yeah.
2027. Like, is there going to be a season? And especially if you're a young player, right? Like, I know majorly you see some of the contracts like Otani and Kyle Tucker and all these guys with what they're making. If you're in the minor leagues, you're not making anywhere near that kind of money. So if you get the opportunity to sign a contract that's going to it's going to guarantee you $80 million, especially with the uncertainty in 2027, it's hard to say no to that, right? And it's hard to not want to sign that as quickly as you can.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kyle.
I was going to say, I feel like you see this more often with small market teams. You mentioned the Sox, the Brewers, the Mariners. I don't think have the Cubs done this? I'm assuming the Cubs haven't done something like this. I don't think they would. It doesn't make sense for them to, but I'm assuming it's a good play for them. I'm not smart enough to know if it's a good play, but if they keep doing it, I'm assuming it's nice.
Yeah, like
Yeah, I
if
think it,
Churio, yeah, if Churio or Pratt or any of these guys play up to who they're supposed to be, you're probably paying them less through that system or through this extension than if they go through the arbitration process. Where, like, I mean, we saw Tarek Skubal get a record-setting deal in arbitration.
Mhm.
yeah, and I feel like the only one that I can remember for sure that was like a major miss, a terrible contract, was the Singleton one that the Astros
Yeah,
signed, and like that was the only one that at least came to mind. When I was looking some up and thinking about them before this pod, was like that was the only one that I feel like is truly missed. At least the others, Eloy Jimenez and Luis Robert Jr. Like there's varying degrees maybe of success of those. They had some big years, struggled to stay healthy, whatever. But yeah, I mean, the Churio one is going to look like an absolute steal. Even the deal that Ronald Acuna signed, I think it was after he had already, played in the big leagues, or maybe it was around the same kind of sequence system where, like, it was right before his major league debut. But that looks like an absolute steal. Now that's only
Ozzy
about
Albies too.
Ozzy
Yeah, that's the
Albies
one that
too.
comes to mind. Isn't it? Wasn't Albies like 7 years, 35 million or something like
Yeah,
that?
pretty sure. Yeah, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
it is, and like, but it also, if I'm the player, I would feel like pretty motivated to sign that because you're guaranteed that money. It's not like NFL where there's you can waive a guy and trade him, do whatever, and they don't count against the cap. Like this is guaranteed money for Emerson and for Pratt,
Hmm.
and obviously Nico and PCA. But I think so automatically you're going to be making money up front, and the PCA deal is interesting because he's making so much more on the back half, but he's still going to be making more up front than he probably would make if he just played through. Next year would be his first year of arbitration, right, Andy? Like, he's making
Yep.
10 million, on the books for next year. Like, there's no way he was going to make. Well, most likely, no way he was going to make 10 million as a first year art player next year. So
No.
it's more money up front. It's more guaranteed. And like I think it's a great point about the lockout is like you have guaranteed security now, regardless of whatever happens, if there's a 2027 season or whatever. So I do think it's really interesting. And I think it's interesting too, because I guess when I look at the Brewers, I mean, Pratt's been I think, consensus top 100 prospect, but he's not somebody that has come along that I'm like, oh, the Cubs, this guy's going to be a problem for the Cubs for the next few years. But maybe he is. I mean, and you give him $60, $70 million. before he even takes an at bat in the big leagues. I feel pretty confident about it.
Yeah, for sure, and that's the thing. It's like, and that position, right? Joey Ortiz has been really, really, really good defensively. Like I'd argue, he's been just as good as Dansby Swanson defensively, but the bat has lagged so much that you kind of start to wonder, like, does the defense outweigh the really like subpar offense that he's providing? And maybe this is an answer to maybe remedy that, especially as like Joey Ortiz starts heading into arbitration, where the Brewers would be probably okay with non-tendering someone like Joey Ortiz just because of the raise that he's going to be making, as opposed to like if Joey Ortiz was with a big market team that could probably afford like a $2 or $3 million hit on the books. Like the Brewers just don't kind of tackle those kinds of monetary responsibilities in arbitration.
Speaking of extensions, Andy, you were there on Sunday for Nico's extension presser. I thought it was pretty cool how many Cubs players showed up. It was a little different than the PCA one that came on an off day in between opening day and game 2 and that Friday. Nico's extension came right after Sunday's game, and that opening series of the Nationals wrapped up. Andy, just what kind of stood out to you, though, about what Nico said, what Jed and the Cubs said, just in general about, Nico putting pen to paper on that deal?
Yeah, the two things for sure. The first one was when the players walked in. They all kind of walked in together, and it was kind of jarring to see that many players walk in for the press conference. And I mean, there's way more players than there were media or family and friends on the other side. It was like one half was all players, and then the other half wasn't full, but it was the media and Nico's family. But so that was really, really cool to see that. And it's players that like. It was like Jameson Taillon, Matthew Boyd. Like they played with him last year and the last couple of years in Taillon's case, and they'll play with him this year. But there's a good chance that they're no longer teammates with him after that. But they still stood by him because of what he's meant as a teammate. So that was really cool and interesting to see. And then just talking with Nico, I asked him about he's been pretty clear that he like wanted to stay in Chicago. And I remember he did a radio interview. I think it was last year, maybe it was the year before, about around the trade deadline, saying like, yeah, I guess this could be the last time I talk to you guys on this radio hit, but like that would stink if it is, because I really like it here and I've known nothing else. And he's been pretty clear about wanting to stay in Chicago and assuring that he's practically going to stay in Chicago because it'll be through his age 35 season that this contract runs through. It's so cool because we just don't see it. We talked about it. Like that just doesn't happen anymore. And you could tell just how happy and how much it meant to him to know that, like, yes, he could have gone to free agency, and it was crazy as it might sound, like he would have been arguably one of, if not the best position player on free agency this offseason, because it's not a strong free agent class. He probably could have beaten the deal that he got, but he wanted to be here. The Cubs wanted to keep him, and he got the 4th largest contract by a second baseman. Like he still set the standard for second baseman coming on behind him, which is something that he talked about and why it's so important to hit certain dollar figures in contract negotiations. And he gets to remain a Cub, which is clearly what was important to him.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting too. You talked about like Taillon and Boyd may not be around, but Ian Happ was there too, and he's a guy who has played with Nico for a long time now, and grown together. Their lockers are very close to each other, in essentially next to each other. There's like one between them, right, in the Cubs clubhouse, and has that's been the case for years. But Ian does not have a contract after this season, and he had an interview with Marquee Sports Network the other day. I think Taylor did the interview, like just talking about how emotional he kind of got watching the Nico stuff and thinking about what it means for Nico to be around long term. I wonder how weird maybe it is to be Hap in that case, right? Like you don't have an extension, you probably feel the same way that Nico. You want to stick around, but you also, this is his last chance to make a good, to get a good contract, to make them.
He's going to be changing money. He's probably going to be one of the top bats in free agency, and former player rep in the former player rep in the union. Like he knows the importance of going out and setting a new standard for left fielders. Like when he signed his first extension, I remember the big thing about his extension was he was making 20.25 AAV million a year, which was just above Kyle Schwarber. So therefore, it like reset. Kyle Schwarber set the marker of what a 4 WAR left fielder was, and then Ian Happ surpassed it, so that the next left fielder that's coming by has that. Like that's the standard, and it gets the future players paid, and that's what's so important. And Ian Happ knows that, and that's why it's going to be important that he does something like that in free agency. Go ahead,
I
Kyle.
have two quick. I have two quick questions for you guys regarding this.
Yeah.
One, do you think it's like kind of awkward for Hap right now that he sees PCA and Nico getting these extensions and he's like, "I'm here, guys. I'm still right here, Jed." And secondly, the value on Nico is 141 million. Did that surprise you at all?
I do think it's awkward. I don't know that it just because, like you said, he doesn't have a contract. But at the same time, I mean, I'm sure they've had discussions. I don't know that for a fact. I'm not reporting that or anything, but I would be really surprised if Haps Camp and, Jed in the front office have not had any discussions at all about what a possible extension would look like. And I think it's also just a little bit different reality, right? Of like what each player is looking for and willing to maybe accept. And, so I do think it's a little awkward, but yeah, I think I was a little surprised at the value for Nico. I don't think that it's an overpay. I'm kind of surprised that the Cubs actually did that and pulled the trigger. I mean, this is a guy that we talked about in the last podcast, but he's almost been traded, I think, legitimately so a couple times, over the past offseason. Legitimately meaning there's like legitimate smoke to that fire, and like and the Cubs, kind of have spun around a bit and pay him $23 million a year for the next 6 years. Like, I think that he's worth that, but I was a little surprised by the value.
I was too, because of the Cubs pulling the trigger on it. I wasn't surprised that, we've talked about the power, the lack of power, and how the modern game just emphasizes power and slug, and he just doesn't provide that in the game. But he accumulates WAR, and and this was a quote that Jed said too. Like he everything else he does very well. That makes up for the lack of power, right? And so like that, therefore, he's putting up numbers that are on par with being a top 25 player in all of baseball, even though he's finishing with single digit home runs every single season and not hitting 300.
Except
Like
this
he
year.
just does.
15 this year.
Yeah, except for this year, right?
What's he on pace for right now?
0.
Oh, okay.
Still got time to heat up.
Yeah.
But like that's what is surprising about it, that the Cubs essentially met the market value, which I know, and maybe that's just the trend that they're on because they're in a winning situation now, or maybe it isn't. Maybe like that's what they're doing now. You saw it with Alex Bregman, you saw it with PCA, you're seeing it with Nico Hoerner. Like they're in a win now mode, and if that means securing a player and paying the market value, not maybe trying to find value around the edges, right? Like I think it would have been the easiest Cubs thing to do would have been to say, "Thanks, Nico. We'll talk in free agency this winter." And maybe exactly, because he's not even ARB eligible next year. Like he's going to be making the league minimum or close to the league minimum, and you're not going to be taking that much of a hit, and you can reallocate those funds elsewhere. That to me I thought was going to happen, just because that's how the Cubs have operated really, basically since the 2020 season, 2019 season. Like they haven't essentially like set the market or set the standard for paying players. It's if you're a Cubs fan, it's a good thing that they are now starting to do this and starting to pay premium dollars for what is premium players at premium positions.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I thought it was so great that it was Nico that signed the extension, because, and to your point, Kyle, like the 141 million, I think that's such a win for the Cubs and for the fan base, and looking forward is just a huge, I think even more than the PCA one, which only bought out 2 years of free agency. Like, I think this was even more reason to celebrate for Cubs fans.
Makes sense.
I was going to say one thing too. Like I was talking with Jordan Bashan of MLB.com during this homestand, and there was someone wearing a Kyle Tucker jersey, and it's like, man, like, would you have really bought a Kyle Tucker jersey, like knowing like, and maybe someone listening out there has and can tell me why I'm stupid for thinking this, but like,
idiot.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why you would buy a Kyle Tucker jersey, kind of knowing that it was going to be a 1 year thing. Now, like in the Nico Hoerner situation, like this is a guy that you can buy his jersey, and like he's not going anywhere. PCA, same thing. Like these are guys that are going to be around, and probably when their career is all said and done are going to be like Cubs icons.
I do think with the Tucker thing, we in the media and those who are around the team, whether every day or not, like I feel like we get so caught up in those narratives and stuff, Andy, that like we forget that there are a lot of casual fans out there, but they're just the fans in general. They buy with their heart and with hope, and
that's fair.
they're like, I want to get a Kyle Tucker jersey because I love that the Cubs got him. And like, listen, they may sign him for an 8-year deal or the same contract that the Dodgers just signed him through for 4 years or whatever. Like, we may have known that there was no shot that he was going to come back, which we've said as much in various platforms and stuff over the last year. But like, I don't think fans always think of it that way.
That's fair.
Yeah.
In that fans' defense, when the Cubs traded for Nomar in '04, I made my parents get me a Nomar jersey before he even re-signed in '05. I was like, let's ride, Dad. And he's like, you're an idiot.
But it's you were like what, 10, 11? Like, that's different. That's a little different. This is a grown adult.
Oh, so that guy's a huge idiot then. Yeah, never mind. I take back. I'm smart. He's an idiot.
I don't think he's an idiot. But anyways, all right. Let's move on to the on-field product that we've seen from the Cubs. We're recording this on Tuesday, early afternoon here. It's the Cubs have played 4 games so far. They are 2-2. There's been some ups. There's been some downs. There's been some
81 win pace.
81 win pace, yes. Ian Happ's on pace for 100 homers and 200 RBI. He should be on pace for 162 homers, but the Wrigley Wind hates him, although they taketh away and then they give it again on Monday night.
Yeah, it's negated.
Yeah, so it's equal. I still think, and plus it's notorious now that he had his ball blown back by 113. Right? Was that what it was?
Yep,
113 feet. Like, that's just crazy, and we may never see that again. So that we might have seen the craziest wind at Wrigley ever on opening day this year. But regardless, and Kyle, I'll start with you and then go to Andy. But like, any takeaways you have from the first 4 games so far from watching the Cubs and just how they've played and how it's gone on the field?
Yeah, the one takeaway that I have, and I know we're going to touch on this later in the pod, but I mean, yesterday, Edward Cabrera, my God, I mean, he looked awesome. This is one thing that kind of just blew my mind, and I don't know how many times you guys have noticed this, or if you really have. First pitch of the game, he started Zach Neto. Neto, how do you pronounce? Is it Neto? Neto. Damn, I was right the first time. Yep. He started Zach Neto off with an 0-0 changeup. First pitch of the game. So then I was curious. When was the last time a Cubs pitcher started the game with a changeup? And it hasn't been since 2021 in Jake Arrieta, which is like, very random. That's a very me stat to even like know. I guess look that up. But we've talked about how
I feel like, yeah, that's crazy. I mean, for Kyle Hendricks too, who like threw a ton of changeups. I'm really surprised it's been 5 years.
Yeah, so it's 2021, and even last year in all of baseball, it's been 0.6% of the time was the first pitch a changeup. So
wow,
just the fact that he did hit to start the game, and it's like in Boog and JD we're talking about, it's like, do you rename the pitch? Like, because it's not if you're starting the game, you're not changing up from anything, right? Because a changeup usually is changing up the speed from the fastball a little bit, but just overall, I thought. And I know that's just a one game takeaway, not a broader one, but I loved Edward Cabrera yesterday. And the second part I love is that he has a tattoo on his neck. And I don't know if you were listening intently to Boog and JD, but he has a tattoo on his neck of, I think it's November 2017. It's the first time that he touched 100 miles an hour, which it's such a random like tidbit and fact, but I was like, damn, that's sick. So I know those are two very niche and unique things that I noticed, but those are what I came prepared with. Was one, Edward Cabrera, the 0-0 changeup. I don't know, just diabolical. I loved it, and the fact that he has the and on like the flip side, he has the tattoo of when he threw 100 for the first time. I love this guy. I'm all in on him.
Kyle, how many times has he hit 100 since then?
No clue. Probably never.
Come next pod with that. I'm sure he's set 97, 99 or so with this fastball. But a few things on that. One, do you think there was some bet place that he had to start the game with a changeup, and it was extremely astronomical in the odds? I'm just joking around. I'm making an Emmanuel Class A joke, but
I was like, damn, that'd be smart.
No, I'm not. By no means am I implicating Edward Cabrera. I'm just saying that it's just crazy how rare that happens, because I actually, and I thought the same thing that Boog and JD said that you're saying about, like, is it a changeup if you're not changed up from anything? I do think it could be because you are expecting fastball so often. That's why Michael Busch has ambushed guys in the leadoff spot. We saw it towards the end of last year was, he hops on that first heater that he sees in the zone and smacks it out of the ballpark. But like maybe it is changing things up because you're subverting expectations of like this is going to be a fastball. Just kidding, it's going to be my changeup. But also at the same time with Cabrera, it's like the movement more like a changeup. It's definitely not the change up like speed wise. I mean, it's like
92.
2 to 4 miles an hour slower than his fastball.
Yeah, just the speed of it. I always think it's so crazy, and I know it's obviously it's unique to each pitcher what the speed of the changeup is, but like when Cabrera's throwing a 92-mile-an-hour changeup, don't you automatically just think of how Kyle Hendricks his fastball was like 88, 89? It's like
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
it's such a baseball thing where a changeup is fast. One guy's changeup is faster than another guy's fastball.
Or
It's the
like
coolest thing.
Mizorowski's sliders like 92 or 93, and it's like, yeah, that's 3 miles an hour faster than Kyle Hendricks could even throw in the last few years.
Yeah, I know. It's the best.
I was going to say one thing on Cabrera, like the changeup starting was crazy, and I like that you brought up that stat because that is fun. But he threw an 88-mile-an-hour curveball later in that at bat, and that was the one where I was like, what? Like 80? Like they're again, Kyle Hendricks is an example. That's how fast he throws. Like that's such a hard thing to just wrap your head around. And really the one thing you notice with Cabrera, and I know we were talking about like what our takeaways, but recency bias talking about Cabrera, like this is why the Cubs wanted to go out and get him. This is why they had their eyes on him for a couple of years. This is why they were trying to get him at the trade deadline in 2025, because he just is. There's so much potential, and I think he's gonna be good for them this year. But obviously, he's still kind of young and figuring it out. Doesn't have a ton of. He has a lot of question marks. He doesn't have a ton of big league experience per se. But like I think he's gonna have his hiccups. But when you see his potential as he flashed in that first game as a Cub, it's hard not to get excited of like this is a front of the rotation guy in all of baseball. And then you say, oh, there's also Cade Horton in this rotation. Like then you start looking at like a 1-2 punch in the playoffs if everything's going well, where you start. That's how you win series, and that's what's exciting when you see Edward Cabrera. Again, it's March 31st. It's his first start of the year. He's gonna have some bad starts. He's gonna have some bad outings. He's gonna have outings where fans are saying, "Why did they trade for this guy? Why did they give up on Casey?" But I think you saw why they paid a premium for him, because I think he's going to be really, really good if he gets it all figured out, and the Cubs believe they can get it all figured out.
Well, it's not even the nastiness of it. I'm looking at the quality of contact. The Angel and so Andy, a hard hit ball is 95 miles and over and above, correct?
Correct.
The Angels in his 6 innings, they only had 2 balls in play that were considered hard hit, which is, I mean, if you're missing barrels, you're doing something right. And yeah, he had 5 strikeouts, so he wasn't striking out. I mean, 5 strikeouts obviously is nothing to bat an eye at. It's very good.
Right.
But the quality of contact, I mean, in comparison, Colin Ray pitched 3 innings and gave up 6 hard hit balls. So that's another thing that stood out to me, was that he wasn't giving up hard contact, especially on a night where we saw the wind was howling out.
And for if someone's listening, it's like, well, it's the Angels. The Angels, they stunk. The Angels were like that 4-game series against the Astros that they had to start the year. Their offense was red hot, and they did it against Hunter Brown. They did it against some really good pitchers down in Houston that they were putting up some damage, and they got 1 hit by Edward Cabrera. Like Mike Trout, Zach Neto, some of these guys that were having good starts to the season. Mike Trout had gotten on base 13 times in 4 games. He didn't get on base once Monday night. Like the I don't care that the Angels have historically been bad. Like that was a pretty good lineup, or a lineup that's been doing really, really well to start the year that he just mowed down and sat down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was that one inning. I think it was 4th, 5th. I couldn't remember, but he needed like 7, 8 pitches to get 3 weak groundouts, and just had everybody rolling over on the ball. And I just thought that was like, I don't know if everyone was on a changeup, but like I'm with you, Kyle. Like I was like, like that quality of contact was like, whoa, this is interesting. And it was, this is the first extended opportunity I've had to like see Cabrera in an MLB game. I've seen some highlights and stuff before, but I'll be honest, I wasn't watching a lot of Marlins games the last 5 years from start to finish.
Not many people were.
Yeah, but yeah, I think, and then those shoes, those spikes are sick. Like the like Wrigleyville Cubby blue, like that's really cool. But I'm with you totally, Andy. Like I found myself too after his start and he came out, this dream start for him. I'm like, man, you got him and Cade Horton. Like, this Cubs rotation can be elite because, like, Boyd struggled in one inning on opening day. I'm not worried about Boyd's performance. I'm worried about Boyd's health and if he'll maintain that throughout the year, which maybe will affect his performance. But I think that's going to be more of an aberration. Like, I think Boyd is going to be anywhere from a solid to a very good pitcher again this year. And to be honest, I'm not that worried about Shota. I think, it was, maybe this is a total meatball take, but as far as like 4 runs in 5 innings, like he had on, was that Sunday?
Yeah.
I think that was one of the best, like 4 runs in 5 innings type of outings that you can kind of ask for. He had 7 strikeouts, Shota did, which, yes, it's the Nationals and they strike out a ton, but like that was big and that was impressive because we saw the strikeout rate, the whiff rate go down last year, even before the homer ball really started hampering him. And, it was, he struck out 2 guys in the first, then it was like, what, a dink, a base hit, and then bam, 3-run homer. And then he settled in and had a really good rest of his outing. So I'm not concerned about Shota after the one start, but I am very curious if you guys are at all. If because of the way he lost, is it just, oh, here we go again type of thing that popped in your head?
No, I mean, I'll preface it by saying, like, when Weimer came up to bat, I was like, man, he's going to give up a home run because I just kind of felt like the situation, how the inning had gone.
Chat, yeah.
Because it was 2 weakly hit balls. I believe both were like 80-mile-an-hour exit velocities that just, like, one was a check swing single, right? Like, it was just crummy luck. And even the pitch to Weimer, it was a splitter that was like a couple inches, 3-4 inches below the zone. Weimer just beat him to the spot. And that's like, Shota didn't say this because he's not kind of like this guy, but it's usually those are the kind of pitches you just like kind of tip your cap to, right? Where it's like, well, you beat me to the spot. Like, if you're hitting a splitter, an 85-mile-an-hour or an 87-mile-an-hour splitter, 3 or 4 inches below the zone, and you're putting it in the outfield, like, tip your cap. Like, that's just good hitting by the hitter, a guy who was red hot to start the year. Like, the big concern, you mentioned it, Tony, was like, is he going to generate the swing and miss? Is he going to be striking guys out? He did that on Sunday, and that's what I was looking forward to. Like, if he had given up that 3-run home run and then was giving up a lot of fly balls and maybe had like 1 or 2 strikeouts, then I'd be a little bit more alarmed. But I mean, if this start happened in June and he was pitching like he was at the start of last year, I don't think anyone bats an eye.
Yeah, I agree with that.
The one thing I noticed, and they did touch on it during the broadcast, was his fastball velocity. And I know it's been made, and down the or towards the end of the last season, his fastball velocity was like 90.8. I believe in 2024 it was around 91.5. Baseball Savant says his 4-seam velocity was 92.1, which is obviously a great sign. The thing that stood out to me was, obviously the home run to Weimer sucked. One, he's been on fire to start the year, so it's also like he didn't leave a meatball down the middle, right? It was a pitch, like you mentioned, Andy, it was below the zone. But secondly, how he responded after that, he gave up those 3 runs, and then he was pretty much nails after that. I think in the 4th, they even had a guy on 3rd. I think Weimer again tripled.
Yeah, leadoff triple.
Yeah, Weimer tripled. Red hot, and he stranded him at 3rd. He got out of that inning. So, and I think the 4th run that he gave up, it was a leadoff walk, maybe in the 6th, and then was it Maton, Phil? I can never say his name. Number 80, Phil Maton. I'm gonna struggle with his name, and I know he's on the list here that we're gonna talk about, but I'm gonna struggle with his name. I'm sorry, but he surrendered that run, so it wasn't even like, it showed obviously put him on base, but his response, especially after giving up the 3-run homer with the long offseason, a lot of talk around how he's going to perform this year. I thought he looked well. I mean, he had 17 swinging strikes, or he induced 17 whiffs, I should say, which is obviously a decent amount. It's more than Edward Cabrera induced. So, in the long run, I think I think he'll be on the right track.
Yeah, that exactly, like the velocity and the swinging strikes and the actual strikeouts. I mean, those are the reasons why I feel actually like encouraged about Shota. I mean, speaking of encouraged though, like there was a great opening series from Alex Bregman. He had the 2 homers was that on his birthday or was it the day before his birthday, right?
Yeah.
So
it was the day before.
He has the 2 homers. Like, I think he just looked good all around. He's smooth and solid at third base. There was the one that was initially ruled a hit on opening day and then changed an error, which, whatever, that happens. But I just it's been kind of fun and cool to watch Bregman all the time because similar to Edward Cabrera, like I've seen Bregman play and I've watched a bunch of his games even in the playoffs, but like I haven't really watched him consistently 3-4 days in a row like I have these first few games of the season. But Andy, what's been your takeaways watching Bregman up close, like firsthand these past few days?
The approach, the at bats remind me so much of Kyle Tucker in the sense of like he has a plan and he has like, I'm looking for this in this location, and if I don't get it, then I don't get it. Like I'm going to be stubborn about my approach, and that's something that is like so much easier said than done. Like right, like I think every guy says they can are trying to do that, but like Kyle Tucker was the first guy where it's like that guy, he knows what he's looking for and he's doing it, and then he does damage on it. Alex Bregman feels a lot like that, and it's just like really impressive to watch because that is elite hitting. That's the best of the best. And if he's doing that and he does that consistently, which is what the Cubs paid him to do, that's a really good thing for the Cubs offense. Because then, as I've preached about, like, well, how do they replace Kyle Tucker? Like, the pathway's clearly there. The runway's right there with Bregman.
And I know I'm going deep into the stats here, but Bregman has already in the first 4 games 7 batted balls over 100 miles an hour, and 3 of them have resulted in outs with. It was 100 miles an hour with a launch angle of 19, 19, and 17. So like 3 lineouts to the outfield. I think you hit the nail on the head. It's just like it's a professional at bat. Every time he goes up there, you're not gonna. And not this is obviously no knock on PCA, but PCA is more of the free swinger, where Bregman is more of he goes up there and he's looking. It's almost like he's looking for one pitch in one spot, and if he gets it, he's gonna drill it. And it's just maybe it's a refreshing change of pace. I mean, we saw a lot from Kyle Tucker in the first half last year, but I've loved what I've seen from Bregman so far.
Yeah, there was the one moment I think it was in Sunday's game where Bregman challenged, and it was like a 2-1 pitch. I don't remember the
Yeah,
exact sequence.
yeah, 2-1 pitch
And
in
it
the
was
sixth.
yeah, and it was a pitch that was really close, and it was like a slider breaking away from him from a righty as a right-handed hitter, and I think it ended up 1.1 inches off the plate, so it was
Mm-hmm.
a ball by an inch, and he watched it go through. It was called a strike. He immediately taps his helmet, and sure enough, within 15 seconds, is proven correct that it was a ball, and I was just like, oh my god, like this ABS stuff. First of all, is awesome. Second of all, there are a few guys that feel like on a roster that I'd be like, you have the green light whenever to challenge, and that right there just entrenched Bregman for me as a guy who can challenge whenever he wants. If he can tell a slider that is breaking that the way that it is off the plate by an inch, and he is so sure about it that it takes him like zero hesitance. I'm like, you can. That reminds me of Kyle Tucker for sure. I felt like he had the same level of eye and pitch recognition and all of that. Like, I just thought that was like one of the more underrated, impressive things from the opening week of the Cubs so far. As I was like in awe, and I was explaining to Amy, my wife, about it, like, and her eyes glazed over. She did not care, but I was just like going on and on about it, and my kids are sitting around and they're just like, "Daddy, we don't care. Like, turn something else on." But I was just like, "Oh my god, did you see what he just did?" And they didn't care.
I care.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, I know
I
you do. I should have texted you guys right away. I knew you guys would care.
I loved it.
All right. Last thing before we go, Andy, I think you put this on there by your guy Maton, Phil.
He is disgusting. He is like when I've been in the press box the last few days, and when he comes into pitch, there are these pitches where I'm like, dude, that is disgusting. And then I watch the replay because the TVs are 5-10 seconds behind in the press box, so I can go and like look at the pitch. Those pitches are filthy. Like he's just like I don't know how to describe it. Like he's just a disgusting reliever that's just going to get outs. Like there were some pitches where I'm like, if I was a hitter, I'd be like flinching, and it's like just down the middle of the strike zone. He's got that much movement.
Throw hard though.
No, he doesn't.
Funny,
but it's just it's funky and it moves so much. It's remarkable.
He looks like he's throwing a wiffle ball up there a little bit. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I know I think the bullpen's one of those things it's gonna throughout the course of the season it's gonna fluctuate, right? And some of these guys that maybe we thought were going to be key pieces maybe don't end up being, and maybe some of the guys that are in the minors come up and take those places and surprise people. But I think Maton is kind of one that he just looks immediately like one of those guys that's going to be like early on you saw Brad Keller last year and you were like, yeah, this guy's probably going to be a guy. That's kind of how I feel about Maton, where it's like this guy in September, he's one of the leverage guys along with Valencia. Like you just kind of feel good about that.
He reminds me of Kittredge a lot, just because I remember like Kittredge's first outing with the Cubs is like, whoa, okay, this guy's legit, and like have had good careers, maybe flown under the radar a bit because they've never really been like a closer or anything, but like he reminds me a lot of that, and able to kind of rack up some big strikeout numbers despite not having seemingly on the surface maybe like the elite level stuff because the velocity isn't that high. I mean, Kittredge I guess did throw like 95, but still like these guys that I feel like that, aren't coming out of the bullpen and you're like, this is Palencia going to hit triple digits, but he reminds me a lot of Kittredge in that sense. And yeah, I agree. Like he instantly seems like a dude. And I feel like we kind of knew that was going to happen because Kyle, you had this, right? He's the first time the Cubs have signed a reliever to a guaranteed multi-year deal since Craig Kimbrell. Is that correct?
Yeah. And he's got an option for, I believe, after his second year too, which is crazy.
It's after the second year, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
But are you sharpening your pencil over there?
$6 million.
No, it's nap time for the baby. So.
Oh, I thought you're sharpening your
It does sound like a pencil sharpener. I never thought of that.
You guys got
I gotta take it. Yeah, baby Barza. Yeah, it's like a Keurig for babies. Yeah.
That thing is yeah. That has saved me so much.
It's the best thing. It's the best thing at 3 a.m.
Yeah. What do you guys think about?
Let's reach out to Baby Barza and see if they'll sponsor the pod.
Yeah, they should.
Oh, I'm in.
What do you think about Phil Maton wearing number 88? Have you thought anything about that?
That's
no, zero thoughts until this moment.
I didn't even know he wore 88 until just now.
He's the first Cub to ever wear number 88.
I bet you have that.
I don't really. Yeah, first Cub to ever wear number, at least in a regular season game. Yeah, I mean, who else is going to wear 88? I feel like he should be wearing like 43 or something like that. Some Michael Wirtz number. I don't know. 88 should be retired across Chicago sports for Patrick Kane and Desmond Clark.
I was going to say, it's not the first time that the Cubs have made an 88 uniform because I know they've made Patrick Kane Cubs uniforms before.
You're spot on with that. Nothing gets past you there.
Hey, shout out me, hockey guy, who saw Connor Hallebuck and Kyle Connor at the yep at the.
You were scrolling to find your tweet to remind yourself who you tweeted about.
What's that?
I said you were just scrolling through your Twitter to find the two names who you actually tweeted about. You remembered Hellebuck, you forgot the other guy. Yeah, you're going a little viral.
I only remembered it was Kyle
Twitter.
Because of you.
Yeah, people loved it.
Yeah, I feel like an idiot for putting hashtag hockey because that was like a joke for the three of us, and then it went kind of viral, and then now it's got hashtag hockey on there.
Yeah, you're a hockey guy.
Definitely shout out you, Andy, even though they were on the video board and named for you on there, so you didn't have to just like identify them in street clothes. But shout out you.
Exactly.
Shout out you.
Credit to me.
All right. We'll end the note on everybody shouting out Andy. That'll do it for this episode of the Windy City Breakdown podcast. Stay tuned for our episode next week. We will find what to shout out Andy for next week.
Won't be much.